Hare Krishna. Thank you, Arti Mataji. Very well. All devotees who led the chanting today. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshuronmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll continue with our prayers. Mukundamala Stotra. So we are doing 41 to 53 this whole week. Okay, so hopefully you can see the screen. Let's put the link in the chat. नारायणाय नमः एवं मन्त्रम् संसारघोरविश निर्हरणाय नित्यम् शृण्वन्तु भव्यमतयो यतयोऽनुरागात् उच्चैस्तरम् उपदिशाम् यहम् ऊर्ध्वबाहु चित्तं नैव निवर्तते क्षणमपि श्रीकृष्णपादाम्बुजान् निन्दन्तु प्रियबान्धवा गुरुजना गृह्णन्तु मुञ्चन्तु वा दुर्वादं परिघोषयन्तु मनुजा वंशे कलङ्केस्तु वा तादृक्प्रेमधरा तादृक्प्रेमधरानुरागमधुना मत्तायमानं तु मे कृष्णो रक्षतु नो जगत्त्रयगुरु कृष्णो हि विश्वम्भर कृष्णादेव समुत्थितं जगदिदं कृष्णे लयं गच्छति कृष्णे तिष्ठति विश्वम् एतदखिलं कृष्णस्य दासवयं कृष्णेनाखिलसद्गतिर्वितरिता कृष्णाय तस्मै नमः। हे गोपालक हे कृपाजलनिधे हे सिन्धुकन्यापते हे कंशान्तक हे गजेन्द्र करुणा पारेण हे माधव हे रामानुज हे जगत्त्रय गुरो हे पुण्डरीकाक्ष माम् हे गोपीजननाथ पालय परम् जानामि न त्वां विना धारावारा करवरसुता ते तनूजो विरिञ्चिः स्तोता वेदस्तव सुरगणा भृत्यवर्गा प्रसादः मुक्तिर्माया जगदविकलं तावकी देवकी ते माता मित्रं बलरिपुसुतस्तत्त्वधन्यं जाने प्रणामम् ईशस्य शिरःफलं विदुस् तदर्चनं पाणिफलं दिवौकशः मनः फलं तद्गुणतत्त्वं चिन्तनं वचःफलं तद्गुणकीर्तनं बुधः श्रीमन्नामाप्रोच्य नारायणाख्यं येन प्रापुर्वाञ्छितं पापिनोऽपि हा नः पूर्वं वाक्प्रवृत्तः न तस्मिंस् तेन प्राप्तं गर्भवासादिदुःखम् ध्यायन्ति ये विष्णुमनन्तमव्ययम् हृत्पद्ममध्ये सततं व्यवस्थितं समाहितानां सतताभयपदं ते यान्ति सिद्धिं परमां तु वैष्णवीम् तत्त्वं प्रसीद तत्त्वं प्रसीद भगवन् कुरु मय्यनाथे विष्णो कृपां परमकारुणिक खलु त्वं संसारसागरनिमग्नमनन्तदीनम् उद्धर्तुम् अर्हसि हरे पुरुषोत्तमोऽसि क्षीरसागरतरङ्गशीखर सारतारकितचारुमूर्तये भोगिभोगशयनीय शायिने माधवाय मधु विद्विषे नमः अलमलम् अलम् एका प्राणिनां पातकानां निरसनविषयेया कृष्ण कृष्णेति वाणी यदि भवति मुकुन्दे भक्तिरानन्दसान्द्रा करतलकलिता सा मोक्षसाम्राज्यलक्ष्मी यस्य प्रियश्रुतिधरौ कविलोकवीरौ मित्रौ द्विजन्मवरपद्मशरावभूतम् तेनाम्बुजाक्षचरणाम्बुजसत्पदेन राज्ञा कृता कृतिरियं कुलशेखरेण मुकुन्दमालां पठतां नराणाम् अशेषसौख्यं लभते न कस्वित् समस्तपापक्षयमेत्य देहि प्रयाति विष्णु परमं पदं तत् श्री मुकुंदमाला स्तोत्र की जय श्री कुलशेखर आलवार की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय Anybody would like to take up the service of reading the translations 41 to 53?
I can read, Prabhuji. Raising my arms, I utter this compassionate advice as loudly as I can. If those in the renounced order want to be delivered from the terrible, poisonous condition of material life, they should have the good sense to constantly hear the mantra Om Namo Narayana. My mind cannot turn from Sri Krishna's lotus feet even for a moment. So let my dear ones and other relatives criticize me, my superiors accept or reject me as they like. The common people spread evil gossip about me, and my family's reputation be sullied. For a madman like me, it is honor enough to feel this flood of love of Godhead, which brings such sweet emotions of attraction for my Lord. May Krishna, the spiritual master of the three worlds, protect us. Continually bow down to Krishna. Krishna has killed all our enemies. Obeisances to Krishna. From Krishna alone this world has come into being. I am the servant of Krishna. This entire universe rests within Krishna. O Krishna, please protect me. O young cowherd boy, O ocean of mercy, O husband of Lakshmi, the ocean's daughter, O killer of Kamsa, O merciful benefactor of Gajendra, O Madhav, O younger brother of Rama, O spiritual master of the three worlds, O lotus eyed Lord of the gopis, I know no one greater than you. Please protect me. Your wife is a beautiful daughter of the ocean, and your son is Lord Brahma. The Vedas are your panegyrist. The demigods comprise your company of servants, and liberation is your benediction. While this entire universe is a display of your magic power, Srimati Devki is your mother, and Arjuna, the son Indra, is your friend. For these reasons, I have no interest in anyone but you. The wise inhabitants of the heavenly regions know that the perfection of the head is to offer prostrate obeisances to the Supreme Lord. The perfection of the life breath is to worship the Lord. The perfection of the mind is to ponder the details of His transcendental qualities. And the perfection of speech is to chant the glories of His qualities. What person, even if most sinful, has ever said aloud the blessed name Narayan and failed to fulfill his desires? But we, alas, never used our power of speech in that way, and so we had to suffer such miseries as living in a womb. The unlimited and infallible Vishnu, who is always present within the lotus of the heart, grants fearlessness to those who fix their intelligence upon him. The devotees who meditate on him will reach the supreme perfection of the Vaishnavas. O Supreme Lord, O Vishnu, you are the most compassionate. So now please show me your favor and bestow your mercy upon this helpless soul. O unlimited Lord, kindly uplift this wretch who is drowning in the ocean of material existence. O Lord Hari, you are the supreme personality of Godhead. Obeisances to Lord Madhav, enemy of the Madhu demon. His beautiful form lying on the couch of the serpent Ananta is speckled by the shower of spray from the milk ocean's waves. By themselves, the words Krishna, Krishna are sufficient to drive away the sins of all living beings. Anyone who possesses devotion for Lord Mukunda, that is densely imbued with ecstasy, holds in the palms of his hands the gifts of liberation, worldly influence, and wealth. This work was composed by King Kulashekara, a bee at the lotus feet of the lotus-eyed Lord. The king's two beloved friends are the twin stems of the exquisite lotus of the Brahmana community, expert Vedic scholars renowned as leaders of the community of poets. Who among those who recite this Mukund Mala will not achieve complete happiness? An embodied being who chants these prayers will have all his sinful reactions eradicated and proceed straight to the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shri Mataji. Okay. So it's a flood of pure love that we get by chanting the holy names, by the glories of the holy names. And yesterday saw Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. Srila Prabhupada is now. He went down to the Bowery to flood them with the love of Godhead, and now he's bringing all of them up back on the skid row. It was almost figuratively as if he's carrying the loads of all the fallen people of the world when he was carrying his suitcases now. So he's shifting from the Bowery up to the Second Avenue to the wonderful place called Matchless Gifts, which he came down to give to this world, to all of us. And this is the pure and matchless gift that cannot be obtained in this material world, but only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada that we have been receiving this matchless gift in the Guru Parampara, the disciplic succession. So almost like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he was the most munificent and magnanimous incarnation because he was freely distributing the love of God to everybody and anybody, even to the most fallen like Jagai and Madai. And in this world right now, in this time, everybody is like Jagai and Madai. Right? So that is how Srila Prabhupada is now coming and continuing the tradition what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established to share this matchless gift. So, okay. So we'll continue and see what happens next. I can read today. So continuing from this paragraph. The Bowery artists and musicians saw him as highly evolved. They felt that the spirit was moving him and were eager to help him set up his own place so that he could do his valuable spiritual thing and spread it to others. He was depending on them for help, yet they knew he was on a higher level. He was his own protector, or as he said, God protected him. The Swami and his young friends reached the corner of Bowery and Houston, turned right, and proceeded east. Gazing steadily ahead as he walked, Prabhupada saw the southern end of Second Avenue, 1 block away. At Second Avenue, he would turn left, walk just 1 block north across Fifth Street, and arrive at his new home. As he passed the IND subway entrance, the storefront came into view. Matchless Gifts. He gripped his suitcases and moved ahead. At Second Avenue and Houston, he hurried through a break in the rapid traffic. He could see green trees holding their heads above the high courtyard wall, reaching up like overgrown weeds in the space between the front and rear buildings of his new address. The street side building housed his meeting hall, the rear building the apartment where he would live and translate. Adjoining the storefront building on its north side was a massive 9-story warehouse. The storefront structure was only 6 stories and seemed appended to the larger building like its diminutive child. On its southern side, Prabhupada's new temple showed a surface of plain cement and was free of any adjoining structure. There was only the spacious lot of the busy mobile service station that bordered on First Street. As Prabhupada approached the storefront, he could see two small lanterns decorating the narrow doorway. There was no certainty of what awaited him here, but already there had been good signs that these American young people, mad though they sometimes were, could actually take part in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Perhaps this new address would be the place where he could enjoy, where he could actually get a footing with his International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Okay, that concludes chapter 17. So we'll continue with chapter 18. Breaking ground. Swami Bhaktivedanta came to USA and went swiftly to the archetype spiritual neighborhood, the New York Lower East Side, and installed intact an ancient, perfectly preserved piece of street India. He adorned the storefront as his ashram and adored Krishna therein, and by patience and good humor, singing, chanting, and expounding Sanskrit terminology day by day, established Krishna consciousness in the psychedelic mind manifesting center of America East. To choose to attend to the Lower East Side, what kindness and humility and intelligence. Allen Ginsberg, from his introduction to the Macmillan Bhagavad Gita as it is. Prabhupada's new neighborhood was not as run down as the nearby Bawari, though it certainly was less than quaint. Right across from his storefront, a row of tombstones looked out from the somber, dimly lit display windows of Weissner Brothers and Papper Memorials. North of Weissner Brothers was Sam's Luncheonette. Next to Sam's stood an ancient four-story building marked AIR, then Ben J. Horowitz Monuments, more gravestones, and finally Schwartz Funeral Home. On the next block at number 43, a worn canvas awning jutted out onto the sidewalk. Provenzano Lanza Funeral Home. Then there was Cosmos Parcels, Importers, and a few blocks further uptown, the prominent black and white signboard of the Village East Theatre. Up a block, but on the same side of the avenue as the storefront, was the Church of the Nativity, an old three-story building with new blue paint and gold-colored cross on top. The six-story 26th Avenue, its face covered by a greenish fire escape, crouched against the massive nine-story Knickerbocker fireproof warehouse. Second Avenue was the main traffic artery for East Manhattan, and the stoplight at the intersection of Houston and Second pumped a stream of delivery trucks, taxis, and private autos past Prabhupada's door. From early morning until night, there would be cars zooming by, followed by the sound of brakes, the competitive tension of waiting bumper to bumper, the impetuous honking, then gears grinding, engines rumbling and revving, and again the zooming by. The traffic was distractingly heavy. At 26th Avenue, there were actually two storefronts. The one to the north was a coin laundry, and the one to the south had been a gift shop, but was now vacant. Both had narrow entrances, large display windows, and dull paint. Beneath the matchless gift sign was a window 6 feet square that a few weeks before had displayed matchboxes decorated with photos of movie stars of the 30s and 40s. The sign, Matchless Gifts, was the only remaining memento of the nostalgic gift shop that had recently moved out. Below the shop's window, a pair of iron doors in the sidewalk hid stone steps to the cellar and the boiler room. The wide sidewalk had been laid down in sections of various shapes and sizes at different times. Years passed. Certain sections had cracked or caved in, and a fine dust with tiny sparkling shards of grass had collected in the cracks and depressions. A dull black fire hydrant stood on the curb. Midway between the entrances to the two storefronts was the main entrance to number 26. This door opened into a foyer lined with mailboxes and intercoms, and then a locked inner door opened into a hallway leading to the stairs or to the back or back to the courtyard. To the left of the gift shop's window was its front door, a dark wooden frame holding a full-length pane of glass. The door opened into the long, narrow storefront, which was now completely bare. Just inside, to the right of the door, a platform extending beneath the display window was just the proper height for a seat. At the far end of the bare, dingy room, two grimy paned windows covered with bars opened into the courtyard. To the left of the left-hand window was a small sink fixed to the outside of a very small toilet closet. whose door faced the front of the store. A door on the store's left wall connected to a hallway that led into the courtyard. The courtyard was paved with concrete geometric sections and encircled with shrub gardens and tall trees. There was a picnic table, a cement bird bath, and a bird house on a pole, and near the center of the courtyard were two shrub gardens. The courtyard was bordered north and south by high walls, and front and back by the two tenements. The patch of sky above gave relief. Overlooking the courtyard from the rear building of 26 Second Avenue was Prabhupada's second floor apartment, where he would now live, work, and worship. With help from his Bowery friends, he had cleaned and settled into his new home. In the back room, his office, he had placed against one wall a thin cushion with an elephant print cover, and in front of the cushion, his unpainted metal suitcase, which served as a desk. He had set his typewriter on the desk and his papers and books on either side. This became his work area, his manuscripts bundled in saffron cloth, his stock of Srimad Bhagavatams, and his few personal effects he kept in the closet opposite his desk. On the wall above his sitting place, he hung an Indian calendar print of Lord Krishna. Krishna, as a youth, was playing on his flute with a cow close behind him. Lord Krishna was standing on the planet Earth, which curved like the top of a small hill beneath his feet. There were two windows on the east wall, and the dappled morning sunlight filtering in through the fire escape fell across the floor. The next room was bare except for a fancy coffee table, which became Prabhupada's altar. Here he placed a framed picture of Lord Chaitanya and his associates. On the wall, he hung an Indian calendar print of four-armed Lord Vishnu and Anantashesha, the celestial snake. And as in the Bowery loft, he put up a clothesline. Both rooms were freshly painted and the floors were clean hardwood parquet. The bathroom was clean and serviceable and was the narrow furnished kitchen. Prabhupada would sometimes stand by the kitchen window, gazing beyond the courtyard wall. He had moved here without any prospects of paying the next month's rent. Although Carl, Mike, Carol, James, Bill, and others had encouraged him to move here, some of them now found it a little inconvenient to visit him regularly, but they all wished him well and hoped new people would come here to help him. They felt that this location was the best yet, and he seemed more comfortable here. At the Paradox, Bill would spread the word of Swamiji's new address. The Lower East Side has a history of change and human suffering as old as New York. 300 years before Prabhupada's arrival, it had been part of Peter Stuyvesant's estate. Today's landmark of Tompkins Square Park had been had then been a salt marsh known as Stuyvesant's Swamp. This Lower East Side first became a slum in the 1840s when thousands of Irish immigrants driven by the Irish potato famine came and settled. 2 decades later, the Irish became the image of the American to the next immigrants, the Germans, who gradually grew in numbers to become the largest immigrant group in New York City. Next came East Europeans, Jews, Poles, and Ukrainians, and by the 1900s, the Lower East Side had become the most densely populated Jewish ghetto in the world. But in the next generation, the ghetto began to break up as Jews moved to the suburbs and economic advancement. Next, the Puerto Ricans thronged in hundreds of thousands in the 1950s, immigrating from their island poverty or moving in from East Harlem. They and the Negroes from Harlem and Bedford Stuyvesant, who arrived next were the new groups who, along with the Poles and Ukrainians, populated the 2 square miles of tenements and crowded streets that formed the Lower East Side slums in the 1960s. Then, only a few years before Prabhupada's arrival, a different kind of slum dweller had appeared on the Lower East Side. Although there have been many sociological and cultural analyses of this phenomenon, it remains ultimately inexplicable why they suddenly came, like a vast flock of birds swooping down, or like animals in a great instinctual migration, and why after a few years they vanished. At first, the newcomers were mostly young artists, musicians, and intellectuals, similar to the hip crowd of Prabhupada's Bowery days. Then came the young middle class dropouts. Because living space was more available and rents were lower than in nearby Greenwich Village, they concentrated here on the Lower East Side, which in the parlance of the renting agents became known as the East Village. Many even came without finding a place to live and camped in the hallways of tenements. Drawn by cheap rent and the promise of bohemian freedom, these young middle class dropouts, the avant garde of a nationwide youth movement, soon to be known in the media as hippies, wandered to the Lower East Side slums in living protest against America's good life of materialism. As if responding to an instinctual call, Younger teenage runaways joined the older hippies, and following the runaways came the police, counselors, social and welfare workers, youth hostels, and drug counseling centers. On St. Mark's Place, a new hip commercialism sprang up with head shops, poster shops, record shops, art galleries, and bookstores that carried everything from cigarette papers to hip clothes and psychedelic lighting. The hippies journeyed to the Lower East Side in full conviction that this was the place to be, just as their immigrant predecessors had done. For the European immigrants of another age, New York Harbor had been the gateway to a land of riches and opportunity, as they, at long last, set their eyes on Manhattan skyline and the Statue of Liberty. Now in 1966, American youth thronged to New York City with hopes of their own and feasted on the vision of their newfound mystical land, the Lower East Side slums. It was an uneasy coexistence, with hippies on one side and Puerto Ricans, Poles, and Ukrainians on the other. The established ethnic groups represented the newcomers who didn't really have to live in the slums, whereas they themselves did. In fact, many of the young newcomers were from immigrant families that had struggled for generations to establish themselves as middle class Americans. Nevertheless, the youth migration to the Lower East Side was just as real as the immigration of Puerto Ricans or Poles or Ukrainians had been, although the motives, of course, were quite different. The hippies had turned from the suburban materialism of their parents, the inane happiness of TV and advertising, the ephemeral goals of middle class America. They were disillusioned by parents, teachers, clergy, public leaders, and the media, dissatisfied with American policy in Vietnam, and allured by radical political ideologies that exposed America as a cruel, selfish, exploitative giant who most who must now reform or die. And they were searching for real love, real peace, real existence, and real spiritual consciousness. Hare Krishna. I'll pause here. Yes. Again, this reminded me of what Kripa Mahaprabhu was mentioning on Saturday with yeah, and the hippies were around, all kinds of revolt and revolution was happening. Um, but yeah, the youth were seeking, they were seeking real peace. They were seeking their real identity, who they were. And like as yesterday, we were reading when Prabhupada went to Mike's house. He was seeing the TV was turned on from last night, and there was this cartoon going on. And he said, "This is nonsense." So this is the nonsense that is going on in the world right now. And yeah, where a pure devotee goes, the the pure souls get attracted, right? So this is the kind of the historical moment in the history of our movement when Srila Prabhupada is actually begin to turn the chapter now. Second Avenue, so he's almost on the verge of starting his second year in the US now. And this is the second avenue or second opportunity, second way that Krishna has, like when say, जब भगवान एक दरवाजा बंद कर देते हैं दूसरा खोलते हैं. So for him the first door was closed, but now the second door is open, and we'll see what happens next. Yes. Any other thoughts, reflections, questions, comments? No comments today. Okay. Shri Amar.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was just thinking that Krishna has rightly placed Prabhupada where he was needed the most. You know, those people were uh, really looking for something higher, and then Prabhupada was there. So it was a perfect combination. So whatever Krishna does, he does for good. You know, Der hai durust hai, but Prabhupada aa gaye, and you know that was so good. Excited to read forward what happens next now, how the movement began and everything. Hari Bol.
So बोलते हैं सारी दुनिया का बोझ हम उठाते हैं, वैसे प्रभुपाद when he moved, he carried the two suitcases in his hand almost as if he's carrying the loads of the universe, you know, like in the Prabhupada movie, The Man, the Movement, Hare Krishna, you know, that movie. It was mentioned Prabhupada, you know, the disciples were mentioning Prabhupada's voice sounded like, you know, he was the prime minister of the galaxy. So like that, he's come to, like the calendar that Prabhupada, in the Prabhupada's room that we just read, poster of Krishna standing on the earth, almost as if he's, even though he's standing on the earth, standing on the whole earth of the universe, he's the holder of the universe, right? With his power, with his energy, all these billions and trillions and gazillions of planets and stars are floating in the sky. So similarly, here, pure devotee of the Lord has come to, like you say, it's only with all these. Yesterday night when we were reading, I was mentioning about the Kashmir tragedy, and with all these kind of absolutely horrible activities that's going on in the world. It is really the power and potency of purity of these acharyas, of our gurus, Guru Parampara, that the balance of this planet is still alive, that we are able to sustain, because otherwise Kali Yuga's influence would increase so fast. But it is really the purity and potency of these Vaishnavas, acharyas, that is keeping the stability of the world in whatever state it is right now. So yeah, so when these pure devotees descend down from the spiritual world, they uplift not just people around them, but the whole planet, the whole humanity. Without them, we would have descended into darkness, like nothing else before. So yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
You are able to hear
We can hear you, Anandi.
Okay, sorry. I was just thinking that, it said that in order to get the mercy of Nityanand Prabhu, we need to approach Jagai and Madai. And, the East Village, the description of Bawri and then the East Village is the Jagai and Madai of United States. And that's where Prabhupada went. Krishna placed him in a place where the lowest of the lowest were there, and proved to them that even the lowest could be delivered and turned into saints. So what to say about the people on the Park Avenue and stuff, where I forget, the Mishra was preaching. So just the potency of Krishna consciousness you can see here. That's all. Thank you, Prabhu.
The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had here. Now there are so many Jagais and Vadais 50 years ago. So imagine after 50 years today, how many more Jagais and Vadais are there around us? And it is just going to grow exponentially. But again, with the purity of the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us, hopefully, there is hope. There is hope for the next 10,000 years. Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of, it is very painful to when we read descriptions from our scriptures that how Kali Yuga is going to advance in the future, and it just pains the heart to think of what abysmal degradation of the society is going to happen down the road. So again, but as Vaishnavas, as practicing sadhakas, again, we should develop the quality of compassion, like Srila Prabhupada had, to really bring as many people as possible and uplift them right now, and move back from this material world to the spiritual world before that day or that black day comes in the future. I really can't imagine taking another birth again after 1,000 years to be. But again, if that is at the service of the Lord, that is something that's different. But yeah, it's just painful to see how things are degrading. Yeah. Thank you, Anandini Gopika Mataji. Okay, it's 6:36, so we will pause here for today. We'll end with Vaishnava Pranam prayers. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.